Hey everyone, welcome back to Glass Seats. This is Viddy.
And my name is Mrinal, and in this episode, we are doing the first part of our trade deadline review. If you missed the action last Friday, it was the NHL trade deadline. Lots of deals, lots of negotiating, and lots of players on the move.
And lots of circumventing.
Okay, yeah, we're going to get to all of that. This is the first part of our review. So this episode is going to be focused on the Western Conference. And how we have formatted this. We have picked 3 teams that we think are the most notable in their trade deadline negotiations. We're going to be talking about what they got, what they lost, and what it's looking like for their playoff hopes.
Yeah.
You ready to get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
We are starting out in Alberta, the Edmonton Oilers. They made a big trade with the Anaheim Ducks, acquiring Sam Carrick, center, and left wing Adam Henrique. Their notable assets that they gave up, they sent their 2024 first round pick to Anaheim, which will be useful for the rebuilding Ducks. They also sent a 2025 fourth round pick to Tampa Bay in order to hold part of Henrique's salary.
Yeah.
So basically, for essentially just the only notable asset is that first round pick. And they get some solid depth in Sam Carrick and Adam Henrique.
Yeah, especially with Adam Henrique as a big veteran presence. I believe he was only traded one time before this from the Devils to the Ducks. And he made the Stanley Cup final in 2012 with the Devils. Ultimately, they didn't win, but he has that deep playoff experience, and Edmonton could definitely use that right now. Granted, they made it to the West Finals against Colorado, but couldn't make it past that absolute dominant Colorado Avalanche team. So hoping that veteran experience really bolsters this Oilers lineup.
Yeah, and the West is looking brutal this year, right?
Really stacked.
Like Edmonton gets stacked with these two, right? But we got we're going to talk about Colorado, we're going to talk about Vegas in this episode.
But we should also mention Dallas, right?
Dallas is no slouch either.
Yeah,
Nashville got better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Edmonton Oilers have a gauntlet ahead of them.
Yeah.
As you do every year, but this year it's looking even harder.
The West is hard, yeah.
The other thing to note is, the Edmonton Oilers generally, for offensive talent, have relied on their dynamic duo of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Having someone like Henrique, I think, is beneficial, right?
Yeah.
Can slot into that second center, or even third center spot. Take some heat off of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
Yeah.
I like this move from Edmonton, and it helps them go toe-to-toe with some of the depth of these other teams in the conference. While I do like these moves, I'm a little surprised Edmonton didn't do anything in the goaltending or defense department.
Yeah.
That's been a weak spot. They started off this year really, really rough, especially on goaltending.
Yeah.
But looks like Stuart Skinner has kind of picked it up. But would you be comfortable if you were one of the Edmonton Oilers leadership here on relying on Skinner now? That's kind of your only hope.
Do you have a choice, though? It sounds like you're
your choice was to get someone now, but you didn't. You know?
I mean, that's what I mean. Like, trade deadline is come and gone at this point at the time we're recording this. So
so my question is, do you think they did enough? They traded with the Ducks. They could have. Did you try to get Gibson? Maybe.
Were the Ducks willing to part ways with Gibson? That's a whole separate thing, right? Like, they could have. Yes, they could have made a monster deal where they acquired both Henrique and Gibson. Yeah. Were the Ducks willing to do it, though? I don't know.
I mean, Gibson's asked for a trade how many times now? Like, if you're not willing to do it, come on.
In last week's episode, you've already we've touched on that. But
okay, so if the Ducks weren't willing, that is another mistake in the Ducks column, in my point of view. But
do the Oilers, or should the Oilers have gotten a defense and goalie? Maybe, but it's too late to say.
That's the thing is, we'll never know what deals they were in on and didn't win. So to say, maybe they were in on Hanifin or Tanev or something.
Sometimes I wish that was disclosed. I really do.
The best we get is Elliot Friedman.
Yeah.
All right, let's move out to the Central Division. The Colorado Avalanche, Stanley Cup winners in 2022, and they're going for it again.
Yeah.
They make a lot of little tiny trades that I think have a big impact.
Very similar to 2022, actually, where they picked up at the deadline a lot.
This seems to be their strategy. So they made several trades, but notable incoming players to Colorado: Yakov Trenin from Nashville, who's a center; winger Brandon Duhaime from Minnesota; center Casey Middlestat from Buffalo; and defenseman Sean Walker from Philly. In order to make room for all of these, Colorado obviously had to ship some players out. So notable players that they lost: Ryan Johansson goes to Philadelphia, and Bowen Byram goes to Buffalo.
Definitely kind of a little bit of a loss. Actually, a pretty decent loss, given that he's so young with Bowen Byram. But they did acquire Sean Walker from Philadelphia, and I actually think them discarding Ryan Johansson is a good thing because he just was not fitting in the Denver system.
Yeah, he came from Nashville, and everyone expected him to slot into that second line, be essentially the Kadri replacement, right? And it's not really worked out. He has 23 points in 63 games. You expect a little bit more from your second line center.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, and it's also good that he was sent to Philadelphia, also being one in a different conference from Colorado, but still a cup or a playoff contender. I mean,
that's true. I didn't even think about that. Both those teams are playoff bound.
Yeah. Well, Buffalo?
Sorry, Philly and Colorado.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, Philly and Colorado are both playoff bound, but yeah, honestly, it might have just been he needed a change in scenery just to get something going, right?
Yeah.
So,
my worry with Colorado is the fact that they made this many changes this late in the season. Trade deadline's honestly pretty late in the season, right? We have a little under 2 months to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Behind their top line of Rantanen, McKinnon, Landeskog, who potentially is coming back, they kind of gutted and replaced almost everything, right?
Yeah.
So, I think it's going to be a test of Jared Bednar's abilities here.
Yeah.
Can he get this team to mesh? Can he get this, a cycle game going? Because if you go in this playoff and you just rely on McKinnon, Makar, and Rantanen carrying you, I don't think they're going to carry you very far.
No, they can only do so much. And so chemistry is a big issue. And what happens internally within the locker room determines whether this team, goes far or even becomes a championship team or not. So, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, it is a close turnaround time given that so many, in my opinion, major pieces were shipped out.
Yeah. I mean, your second line center is not a minor piece, let's be real.
Yeah.
So, they're going to be expecting Casey Middlestat from Buffalo to be taking on that role, which is, I think, a bigger role than Middlestat has had so far in his career. Second line center on a cup contending team.
This could make or break his, or at least change his whole contract.
If he has a hot playoff run, he's getting a fat contract in the offseason.
I was going to say, this is definitely, if there's ever a time to step up and shine for Casey Middlestat, it's got to be now. I can't think of any other time.
Yep.
I don't know.
But you're going to be compared to Nathan McKinnon, so good luck, bud.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we talk about the team that has everybody's eyes on them?
Yeah.
The Vegas Golden Knights blowing up at the deadline. They get 3 players in 3 massive trades. First off, defenseman Noah Hanifin coming in from the Calgary Flames.
Yep.
They also get forward Anthony Mantha from the Washington Capitals. And they get center Tomas Hertl from the San Jose Sharks. What did they lose in order to get all these players? They lost their 2026 first round pick, goes to Calgary for Noah Hanifin. They also lose their 2025 first round pick to San Jose for Hertl. Everything else, that's not the full trade, but everything else they lost is just kind of bits and pieces, late round picks, some prospects that aren't that hyped.
Yeah.
So essentially for 2 firsts, they have really, really bolstered their team.
Yeah, I was going to say, they mostly traded away picks. A lot of picks, let's be real, don't pan out to much.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's asterisks to that. Like we have Nikita Kucherov second round, really panned out really well for the Lightning. But yeah, Vegas doesn't need these picks. They're very competitive. This has been their strategy since they existed.
Vegas has always been of the mind, I'm going to buy ready players.
Yes.
I'm not going to draft and develop.
Yeah. And it's worked. I don't think
they got a cup already.
Yeah. They already have the cup. They don't need these draft picks. A lot of these draft picks don't pan out into anything. Yeah. And the biggest thing that we haven't mentioned is anyone that seems to don a Vegas jersey just turns into God. So happened with Aiden Hill. I mean, it's happened with other players in the past, bunch of misfits. William Karlsson. I mean, players just go to Vegas and just figure it out. Same way it happens in Boston. So
yeah. I think the Hertl trade is probably the biggest of the deadline.
Yeah,
probably only second to the Jake Gensel trade.
Yeah, I would say so.
We will talk about next episode. But for Tomas Hertl, especially coming out from the San Jose Sharks, a big division rival. We were talking about this yesterday. You had a lot of thoughts about that.
Yeah.
Can you just explain to the fans what did this player mean to San Jose?
There's not much to be happy about in San Jose. I would argue that the 2 biggest shining stars was maybe a Couture return, which he did for whatever it was, 6 games. But Tomas Hertl was the team. in this dark days, and you traded him essentially for peanuts to the biggest division rival. I can guarantee you that any diehard Sharks fan is not going to want to see Hurdle raise a cup in a Vegas jersey.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm sorry, we love Hurdle, but nobody wants to see Vegas win. Our disdain for Vegas outweighs our love for Hurdle. And that's the issue. That's the dilemma a lot of us are facing. So
the people who are supporting this trade are saying the cap savings of trading Hurdle are worth it. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, we're not going to be competitive for a while. I honestly would have a lot less of a problem with this trade if it just wasn't to Vegas.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
You know? Yes, there are benefits to trading Hurdle.
Yeah.
But you had to trade him to Vegas?
Yeah, I was like, you could have traded him to, even if it was just within the division, I don't care if they traded him to Vancouver. I would be like, fine, I get it.
Yeah.
But it had to be Vegas.
Yeah, so
I don't know.
Just playing devil's advocate here, it's the fact that Vegas is willing to do trades like this.
Yes.
But I feel like I would have rather kept him than give him to Vegas. You know? Especially because Hurdle's contract is not up for another 6 years. So that means, what have we always said about the Sharks? The parameter is the Vlasic contract, which is 3 years. Which means for the next 3 years after that, you're probably still going to be facing Hurdle.
Yeah. I'm also worried about all the young prospects who now have to develop under Couture and Vlasic strictly. And Vlasic's probably not getting a contract extension, let's be real. So. Yeah,
and Vlasic is already not playing every game.
Yeah.
Couture's been injured. So that's the thing is the Sharks are left without much veteran presence.
Yeah.
I mean, they have veterans like Hoffman and stuff, but no holdover from the core of when they were competitive.
Yeah, I totally understand Hurdle needing to get a cup under his belt, but I'm not supporting it with Vegas. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I still want to see Vegas eliminated.
And the fact that Vegas got Hannafin also from a division team. You know, like Vegas is just not afraid to make those moves.
Yeah. And starting at the earlier part of this episode talking about circumvention. By the way, guys, anyone can do this. It is legal. So don't be shitting on Vegas for this. It's not cheating. Your team just decided not to do it.
So if those of you aren't familiar on what's happening here, Vegas has had some injuries, most notably Jack Eichel and Mark Stone.
Yeah.
Meaning they're placed on long-term injured reserve. So their salaries do not count against the salary cap while they're on LTIR. In the playoffs, there is no salary cap.
Yeah.
So if those players come back to play in the playoffs, it is legal for them to do so.
Yeah.
Which has now given them the cap space to get players like Tomas Hertl.
Yeah. Is it a strange rule? Yes. Does it need to be changed? Yes. Is it changing this playoffs? No.
Yes.
Why not use this strategy?
Yeah. And teams have done this in the past. Tampa has done this. I think Chicago started it. Did a little bit. It's not new. It is legal.
Yeah.
I understand it might feel a little dirty.
Yeah, and as you had mentioned a couple moments ago, where Vegas is fine making these bold trades. Is it if all these players magically come back for the playoffs? Yes, it is over the salary cap, but as we just said, it's not cheating. So
totally legal.
I don't know.
So until the rules change, they're allowed to do this.
Yeah. So don't complain about it. Your team could have done it too, and they didn't.
Absolutely. So those are the three biggest teams from the Western Conference. Some honorable mentions that we should say for trades that we didn't get a chance to discuss, but the Nashville Predators acquire forward Jason Zucker. Winnipeg Jets get forward Tyler Toffoli and defenseman Colin Miller. And the Dallas Stars get defenseman Chris Tanev as well. So a lot of bulking up in the West, but looks like clearly out front, it's going to be Vegas, Colorado, and Edmonton.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, I'm excited for all of the playoffs, but man, the West is actually might be better than the East this year.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be hype.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. This is Glass Seats. If you liked it, drop a like, hit a subscribe if you want more. If you want to see us talk about the Eastern Conference, we got that episode coming out in a couple of days. So sit tight and that'll be out soon. And if you're listening on audio, you can leave us a rating or a review. Helps us grow the show.
Yep.
See you next episode.
Bye.